I think we were questioning whether we need to grow simultaneously into a few directions, meaning a product service and a marketing service, and marketing service diversified into other three or four services, because everything can be served, right? Can be sold to the client. But at the same time, it questioned our existing positioning, because we knew that the growth comes from the full cycle approach, right? From understanding of everything in the same time. That's how the product team works overall, the product company works. So that was a hard call to make, whether we want just take narrow down. But for us, we figured that narrowing down would basically make us similar to other competitors on the market, already existing ones. But that was, I think, hard before we make our next calls hiring leads or heads of departments.
I'm Brandon Reed, and you're listening to Ready, Set, Startup, a podcast that brings you industry-tested perspectives from leaders working in all areas of the startup lifecycle, so you can learn from the wisdom that they've gained over years in their fields of expertise and apply it in your own entrepreneurial journeys. Let's get into it. On today's show, I'm talking with Artem Kuzmych, co-founder and CEO of Applica. This is a really compelling story of the grit, adaptability, and resourcefulness that entrepreneurship requires. It's also, I think, a great example of a founder who is building his business the right way. My company, Dwellspring, actually works with Applica for our in-app conversion optimization, and I've seen firsthand the difference that sound leadership can make in an agency like the one that Artem has spent the last several years building. The team is aligned on a common vision, they all deliver with excellence, and they've honestly given me hope for the agency model of partnership. This episode is packed full of valuable lessons, insights, and fresh perspective from a leader in an industry that is incredibly competitive and hard to differentiate yourself in. Everyone can learn something from the journey that Artem has been on, no matter where you are at in your own. We start our discussion facing a few of the many obstacles that can be encountered in the very uncertain waters of entrepreneurship. He and his friend decide to build a company together. They dig in, build a mobile app, and then, without notice, it gets removed from the App Store. Pretty brutal start, but it didn't deter them, and how they adjusted is a great indicator of the success that they'd eventually have with Applica.
I think I started first, my acquaintance with entrepreneurship was about 6 years ago, when I dived into mobile apps world.
Okay.
So we decided to build an app, a startup, as easy as that, in mental health and philosophy niche at the intersection. So that was my first understanding of what the startup world is. And before that, I was just freelancing, which might be a solo entrepreneurship in a way, right? But different from a serious company building or startup building.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you decided to go into the mobile app space. Did you have a technology background? I mean, that's a pretty intimidating thing if you don't. What got you in the mobile app space?
Marketing background is my main background. Yeah, prior to mobile apps, I was working in marketing for 2-3 years, running ads for clients, for e-com businesses, working on behalf of an agency as well. And then I just basically transitioned that marketing experience into mobile app marketing experience.
Cool. So tell me kind of walk me through the genesis of that first mobile app that you decided to get started. You said it was kind of in the mental health space. How'd you know there was a need there? Why did you decide that a mobile app was the way to solve that problem? What was the start of all that?
Yeah, the best way to talk about the start is that I was invited by a friend of mine to join the venture. During the university, we had our philosophy courses with this friend of mine, and we discovered philosophy for ourselves. We loved it. We started philosophy, and then when the right time came, right, we decided to combine philosophy and mental health. Why mental health? Because he was working on a health and fitness app. I was involved in similar type of projects for e-com business, and philosophy was our passion in a way. So that's where the intersection came from.
Yeah.
But the market by that time, now it's even booming even more, but at that time it wasn't that as popular as it now to build an app. So the market was also growing very fast. So we were looking for not a direct mental health, not a direct educational app, but an intersection of something.
So you guys, was he already up and running with the company and then you joined him to add your expertise, or did you guys co-found from the beginning together?
Well, he invited me to join. That's right. And I would say he was up and running because this startup is
He had an idea and was like, "Come build
he
it with
had
me."
an idea. He had some drafts on
Uh-huh.
of the content. He had a developer already in the team, so he needed marketing side to be covered. And I
Cool.
was ready to join, especially with the background that we had two
Mhm.
best friends in a way for
For
already
sure.
like 6 years so far.
Awesome. So you were a freelancer. So you, like you said, it's solo entrepreneurship. It's a little different, but you're already at least acclimated to like maybe not that
Yeah,
steady drip of a paycheck, which is, really hard to wean off. Like you were making money in creative ways. It was kind of on your own ambition and motivation. So that makes sense that was an easier transition, but still, I mean, joining a startup is tough to do. What gave you the courage to do that? You knew this person, which is really helpful. You were already friends. You had a history that's helpful.
yeah.
But like, what gave you the courage to take that leap? And when did you change from, all right, I'm spending all my time on this. This is full time for me. Was that right away or did you grow into that?
I think best way to say that I grew into that direction because I was combining also freelancing with a full-time agency work. I think besides what you mentioned already, I can add that I always felt more ambitious to just set up your
Sure.
either own way of work or someone set up the way of work for you, so you just go with the flow in a way. That's first thing. And second, when I was freelancing, I was running paid ads for my clients, which requires you to be available 24/7, weekends, weekdays, evening,
Mm,
morning, or you wake up during the night, checking on some budgets. So I didn't like that. I didn't like to be. It's kind of a freedom as a freelancer, but you basically tied to your laptop or to your phone, whatever. So I thought I would rather scale a team. I would rather become a manager and
mm.
scale it up in a way where I would just hand over this responsibility and take over something less, something that requires me less to be always present. So, yeah,
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's a common misconception of like, oh, sweet, you go work for
yeah.
yourself. Like, what do you even do all day? Golf all day? It's like, no, it doesn't always play out that way. And until you build your team, it's often way more work at the beginning as you set things up and wear a lot of hats
Mm-hmm,
yourself.
hmm hmm
Let's talk about that. It's a natural transition into kind of the building of the company. You guys decide to do this together. You feel you have a niche. You feel you have, okay, this is a unique take on things in a fast growing market. It's philosophy and mental health. That's a unique angle. How do you start getting in front of customers? Like you said, that mobile app space feels like every year is like, oh my gosh, it's so not like it was last year. It's so much more competitive. But even just you said, I think 6 years ago or so, it was yet smaller, but yet still incredibly competitive. How'd you get in front of your customers? How'd you start growing? How did you bring your marketing expertise to the table to start building this business?
Just a spoiler here because this startup story was quite fascinating at the beginning and successful in a way, what we would call in mobile app marketing, but it didn't last long, like 7 months or longer, and then we were deleted by the App Store
Oh
without
wow.
any without any explanation, and we fought to
Whoa.
get it back for 2 years, and when we got it back, I wasn't a part of a team because I found that
Two
agency.
years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So your question is definitely relevant to the startup at that time, but also to the agency. But the answer to that was that we were looking for a proof of concept, basically, where we can have a proof of concept, proof of the idea, and for the mobile app specifically, different for an agency. But for mobile apps, we went to Reddit to validate our ideas, to validate the content, and to get the feedback
Hmm.
from that. And then what worked well we would place in the app already, knowing that it will work on a bigger scale and users will be ready to pay for that. So once we validated the idea, the paid ads easy way to go into acquiring more
Hmm.
customers, obviously, but paid ads should be obviously profitable for you. So that's what I meant by successful scaling. That within like a couple of months we went profitable already on day 7. So meaning we put $1 day 1, we get return
Hmm.
higher than dollar on day 7. With we did it because we already first validated the idea in the right way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, Reddit's an interesting way to do that. So, man, that is crazy. There's I'm sure, a whole podcast episode in that journey of like getting removed from the App
Yeah.
Store and fighting for 2 years. Whew, that's intense. Though that's really interesting. And yeah, you kind of had this, you validated an idea, you had some market fit, it sounds like, and then really had to pivot. Let's talk about that pivot for you as you thought,
Yeah.
okay, this is not an option. I'm going to go start an agency. Tell me about the agency, the start of that, why that was the next step for you, how you began building it.
Yeah, it was alongside the Alter Ego, which is the name of the app. It was alongside we started consulting other apps who are curious both in how to optimize the product and how to run paid ads. So these two directions were the core consultancy option that we were given together with a friend of mine. Once again.
Different friend? You started this with a different
No,
friend?
the same
Okay.
friend. Yeah, same
Okay.
friend. So people started requesting whether you can help here or there. You first think of again freelancer or consultant, but then you see more serious way you can grow it. And at that time, right away, the app was deleted. So we were lucky that we started it a little bit
Oh, you'd
before. So
started
we
it
had
before. Okay.
kind of combining
Okay. Sure.
before, so it was the right time now to switch to thinking whether we can pivot into real agency company
Mm.
from consultants.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you, by the way, is the app back on the App Store? Like, is it still being run by somebody?
Yeah, you can check it on the app store. It's called Alter. Now, as I mentioned, there is a separate team. I'm not involved in the company.
Did you guys sell it, or is your friend just running it? Or
My friend just set up the team there, and I was focusing on an agency at the end of the day.
you guys had started, and that's fortuitous timing that, like, when that happened, you guys had already kind of started on this path, and that's great. Did you guys then co-found this agency together, and is he still involved?
Yeah, we found
Cool.
that he's still involved. That's correct.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So, man, that is so rare. I hear on this show so often. Actually, I hear both things, and I hear so confidently both things. I hear never start with a partner. It's such a disaster. Just go it alone, like make your own decisions. I hear don't ever start something unless somebody's alongside you. I hear from a lot of VCs. I have a lot of investors, either angels or VCs, that are on the show, and they'll say a lot of times there's a huge red flag if you don't have a partner as you're starting, because this is all just so hard and it's better to do with somebody. So it's so great that you found somebody that clearly it worked with, and that you were able to build with. That's really neat. And you guys were aligned. So as you are starting this agency, I have been in the mobile app space for a long time, but as an entrepreneur, not a very long time, only a couple of years. And I had to start learning this space of like, okay, all right, marketing. I mean, I worked for Disney before. I didn't have to Disney.
Yeah,
That was not
yeah,
my job at Disney, was marketing the app. That was Mickey Mouse was its own thing. But like, I was like, all right, I need to market this thing. I need to get it. And I built this solution. I need people to be aware that it's a solution that exists. And so I started looking into the mobile app marketing space. And as I do, boy, are there a lot of people offering this thing. So how are you standing out? How are you saying, hey, yes, mobile app marketing, but here's why we're different. Here's what we can offer. How are you finding that, and how are you communicating that message?
yeah. I think from the beginning until now, we understood the growth, no matter if it's marketing or product or any other areas of growth of business, as a full cycle way and model.
Mm,
Meaning for the apps, it means that you don't not only cover the marketing side, meaning how you acquire users, how much do you pay for one install, or anything like that, but also you think about the first impression the user gets in the app, activation, monetization, and retention funnels. And that's where the growth is happening, the full cycle. So most of the agencies, they would go into user acquisition or paid acquisition as the main service. And there was rare cases when the agency would scale the product expertise
mm,
that much. So it becomes an agency, not consultancy. And we saw the opportunity, so we
mm.
decided to take in a position ourselves as a T-shaped team of a full cycle experts who understand what's happening beyond what we actually execute. And that actually helps us even till now increase the LTV of clients, increase the retention, increase the results and understanding on what's happening on the business side. So that would be the answer how we found the exact model.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I mean, I feel like I should have like given a disclaimer at the beginning of like, I hired Artem's company and well, we're working
Oh
together.
wow, I'm
But
here on the pod.
I can share my experience that like when I was looking around, I had hired another agency to do marketing, did not go well for several reasons. I did several other things of like, all right, can I just take this piece of it? Is just maybe this piece helpful? And as I began working with you guys, one of the reasons I even had the initial conversation and reached out to learn more was because that was the message that I took was like, hey, it seems like you guys do a bit of all of it. And it
Mhm.
might be really helpful to have it all under one roof. At the time I hired you guys, I was working with another group for marketing, and like, but I was like, but they offer it all, and that might be a nice transition into that. And I'll tell you that like you guys are one of the most, if not the most, right now in my business, most valuable partnerships I have. I've told you that before. And one of the reasons is because you guys have that expertise. The people you've put on the team have a are thought partners, not just executors. They don't just execute what I tell them to do. It's not like I mean that's what that I've built this whole company on the agency model. There's pros and cons to that. And one huge con I found is I'm sure you hear all the time in your industry is just like they would stand around and just look at me like, "What do you want me to do next?" And I was like, "I don't." You're like that's not my
You
you
tell
tell
me.
me like
Yeah.
what do we work on? I'll give you my thoughts on my business, on my product. I'll tell you what my vision is for the thing, but like you tell me what we execute on next. And you guys brainstorm. I consistently have the people on this team ask me like how else they can help, brainstorm with me, and then proactively bring back ideas. And I think that is really that kind of agency versus consultancy kind of that you were talking about the difference there. That's a
Yeah.
huge thing. And I think that it's tough to communicate that before getting your hands in a project, beginning to work with somebody and showing them that. How you communicate that on the front end, like on the website or through a form or something, they're like, hey, we're different in this way. I got some picture of that because I hired you for a lot of those reasons. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. I will definitely use it as a reel for my LinkedIn.
Nice, nice. Feel free to. That's great. Let's talk a little about this team. You clearly brought on some really great people on board, and I've been the beneficiary of that, and Dwellspring has. Tell me about, as you guys were starting this up, what that looked like. You obviously, this was your expertise, so I'm sure you did a lot of it at the beginning. But this is a point I always like to double click on with my guests of there's a moment when you have a startup and you're building it that you think, okay, all right, this is a thing. We have some traction here. We're beginning to build, and I can't do all this on my own. And you had the vision from the beginning. You were like, you knew you didn't want to do it all on your own. You wanted to delegate and build a team. That's a big moment. You have to start slicing the pie into smaller slices, you know, with the money coming in. That's tough to do. And then people are complicated and they bring it's tough to build teams. It's tough to bring in the right people. It's tough to foster culture. So talk to me about that moment for Applica, what you guys where you're like, all right, we're ready to grow and bring more people on. What'd that look like? Walk me through that moment and chapter in the business.
We decided to build a team and become more serious as an agency once we figured out ourselves, and that's basically a very important point. Like, what's our vision? Whether we are ready to go all in into the business ourselves. Side topic or side events that were happening was the full scale invasion in Ukraine. So we also were
Mhm.
figuring out whether we want to do it at all because there's
Yeah,
the whole bunch of existential questions, not only for the business but for yourself.
totally.
So once we figured it out,
Because you
we
guys are based in Ukraine, just for
yeah,
context.
I'm in Ukraine. The team is across Eastern and Western Europe, so it's a bit easier. But anyway, that doesn't make things easier overall, right? I think we were ready when we answered those questions, and then we tried to polish every delivery, every approach, every process
Mm,
that we would need for a team of 5, 7 people, let's say.
mhm,
And once we polished all of that, we decided already to scope out, specific roles that we would need and start scaling, even testing some people, meaning not hiring them right away,
mhm,
testing the consultancy approach from their side and putting them in front of clients. And that's where we, let's say, transitioned into from a team of 2, 3 plus freelancers into team of 7, 10, let's say, full-time workers, where my focus was always on the consultancy side of things, because 50% of the success in agency is the results, but second is the
Mhm.
consultancy, how actually you explain the results, how you deliver the value, and how you retain the client, right? So more or less that's kind of the story, which has a lot of nuances, but that's how we approach that. So I would say we tried to hire not rather too late than too early. We try to be rather overwhelmed with work than hire right now and then think, and then you put a person in front of a client and you fail with a consultancy skills, let's say, and then you can't fix it anymore.
No, that makes sense, and that's definitely yeah, there's, different approaches there, and that's interesting. That's the one you guys took. Did you have any, really bad experiences with early on? It wasn't a full-time employee, you just hired somebody on just to like, as a consultant, just to do this work. Did you have any really bad experiences? Like, "Oh my gosh, we can't put them in front of clients again."
I think with agency, bad experiences, most of the bad experiences that I had were about consultancy skills, because here in Ukraine, for the context, we have a lot of world leading product companies, meaning mobile apps, meaning people have a skill set that you need, great understanding of marketing, great understanding of product, but they don't understand how to deliver that to a client because they work in the B2C environment, but agency is a B2B environment. So that's where even the best people from my network that I would recruit to work with the clients, they would fail from a sense of a consultancy delivery. And that's the hardest part.
Totally,
Is
and everybody tells you like, "Oh,
still
I
is.
can do that too, I can do that too," and you're like, "Okay," and then you
Yeah.
and then they can't. It's really hard to know. So tell me about as you're growing, you've kind of established this company, this agency, you're building it, starting to bring people into the fold. What was one big bet you can remember taking early on that you thought, all right, this is a risk. We're gonna have to we're gonna have to bet on this to grow from here. What's one you can identify that was, yeah, a little bit of a concern for you or a risk early on that you took to grow?
I think we were questioning whether we need to grow simultaneously into a few directions, meaning a product
Hmm.
service and a marketing service diversified into other three or four services, because everything can be served, right? Can be sold to the client, but the question was whether it's not too much. But at the same time, it questioned our existing positioning, because we knew that the growth comes from the full cycle approach, right? From understanding of everything in the same time. That's how the product team works overall, the product company works. So that was a hard call to make, whether we want just take narrow down, which is logical, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, for a startup to narrow down to
Mm-hmm.
niche and to scale later. But for us, we figured that narrowing down would basically make us similar to other competitors on the market, already existing ones. So it was hard because I was thinking about like two, three hires that I need to make, two, three clients that I need to care
Mm-hmm.
about. But that was, I think, hard before we make our next calls, hiring leads or heads of departments, which is a different topic. But that's how we
Mm-hmm.
solved that eventually.
We may be out of order a bit here because you're already kind of established and growing. But let's talk about funding. Early on, you had this app idea. I don't know if it started making money yet or where you guys were at with that. But when you were pivoting and going full time into this, building this agency, how'd you get funded? How'd you do it? Did you just cash flow it from the beginning? Did you go get external funds? How'd you do it at first?
Yeah, I think for founders that are listening and thinking what to start, either a product or agency, I can tell that an agency is easier one to start from the funding perspective. Why? Because
Mm-hmm.
you can
Mm-hmm.
you have a strong expertise, and you can sell it. You can put even an invoice upfront. You already have money at
Mm-hmm.
the first day of the month, and you can hire a team even if you
Yep.
don't have it, but you promise. So for an agency, we just started consulting, creating cash flow, and then it went pretty well before we started hiring. Already, we had enough margins on bank accounts to make those hires. So you don't need funding actually for an agency. It's not a typical story that an agency would
Yeah.
have funding unless you are creating a product intersection of an agency.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And so have you guys been able to maintain complete control of the company? Have you done equity sharing with your employees? I mean, how have you built the company, and dealt with ownership?
We do own the full equity, because again, we don't require funding. What
Awesome.
we now preach and practice is, I'm trying to look for people who are super ambitious within the company or want to join a
Mhm,
company. So I give them percentage bonuses, not from equity, obviously,
mhm.
but from profits, which make things interesting for everyone
Yeah.
and kind of building entrepreneurs within the business.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do that really successfully.
Yeah.
As you are growing, you're bringing more people on board full time. You obviously had a vision for what you wanted this to be. You saw other agencies, consultancies out there doing it and doing it in a different way than you wanted to do it. You had your own vision of how you wanted to do this excellence across multiple verticals of types of delivery, a product service. How do you, this is such a tricky question, such a tricky area of how did you, as you brought more people in, maintain that vision and keep that culture intact as more people got involved?
Yeah, it's a hard thing to
Hmm.
crack even now. I know even for much bigger companies than ours, but obviously when you have a small team, everything is natural. People pick up your ideas right away. The feedback loop is quick, but when you grow, the vision's supposed to be super intentional, and that's how you can actually keep it at least on a above average level, meaning the vision should be communicated through the values, through the mission, through all hands meetings, through the day when you pay the salary to your people or how you treat your clients. Every small and bigger step should be communicated with the vision, and values, and that's what would keep the culture basically going. So that's what I try to practice these days, and that's what I would recommend. First, you think how to document your vision and how make it
Mhm.
available to everyone, and then you just follow the vision so other people can follow you on any meetings, on any interactions with anyone who is related to the business.
As you think about your hiring journey in your company, I really try to narrow down to some really like practical, tangible pieces, things that people can take away and apply in their own journeys, whether they're founders or analysts working with founders or funders. And I'm always so curious to know what you've learned in your hiring journey because people are just such a critical piece. If what advice would you be able to provide for other founders in particular who haven't begun that part and are maybe
Mhm.
hesitant to get started, that you learned along the way that you wish you knew when you first got started?
One I already said, I can just repeat it, is that for me, hiring too late is better than hiring too early in the startup.
Mm, mhm,
Because you need to be ready to work 24/7, let's say upfront right away. So you don't think about hiring unless you actually know that area of the business well,
mm.
or you establish some process there. If you don't know that and you think that the person gonna fix that or gonna bring or help you to establish the vision, that's a wrong understanding because the hire that you will make might have a completely different vision, so you will just stuck instead of progressing. And then having second, probably the last is just understand what 80% of your work you can hand over right away here and now in order not to regress, let's say, in your personal growth as a founder. Once you figure that out, you just find a bottleneck. You treat it as a bottleneck and you just fix it with a hire, and then you free up another 80% of your time for the next area of your business. Yeah, that's what I would say. And the last one, which I still like it, is basically a safe way to hire is not to hire right away, but establish relationships
Mm.
through one-time interactions, through small projects, through clear ROI steps of interactions with people. And then once you feel that you have a match, you can make an offer.
As it pertains to operating your business kind of day to day, what's a gospel truth, just something a tried and true, something that you have consistently gone back to as you've run your business that continue to prove itself out as effective just over and over again? What's something you continue to go back to as it relates to operating?
When I think about operations, today it's 80% is sales for me these days.
Mm,
So that's where I would respond. What angle I would take as to respond? I would say to be honest and transparent, specifically in sales.
mm,
As an agency, you know that another client will add more revenue to your business, and it sounds exciting. So you try to sell specific tactics, specific strategies that will work for you 100%, and we are the best executors. But often, like very often for me during the pipeline sales, I see that it's not true. So I'm not the best option for you. I'm too expensive option for you. I don't know how to solve your strategy. You need to figure out yourself your strategy first
mhm,
before coming to me, because we're just an agency owning a particular flow. So if I wasn't honest with the leads, that would mess up a lot of things. But sometimes even the leads that I kind of rejected in a way at first would come back later because of this honesty. And you know it yourself from our
yeah,
communication with marketing, right? We try to project specifically whether you will make money. If not, we're not ready to take that risk because it's your money and we value your money. So
mhm,
it is related to sales, but it's related basically to anything that you do as a
yeah.
core value of a business.
What's a failure you can remember that still stings? What'd you learn from it?
If I meet a few people that left my company already,
Mm,
I think I would want to cross the road, so I don't interact with
mhm,
them, because
mhm,
I didn't treat them well. Meaning they were too overwhelmed, but I
mm,
didn't, or they were delivering a lot of value, but I didn't recognize them in the right time, so they left. Great specialists. There's no way to recruit them back.
mhm,
In a way, we ruined relationships. So I wish I could offer them something now, which is
mhm.
too late. Yeah,
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. That idea of like, oh, you see him on the road. It's like I got to get to the other side of the street so
yeah,
that I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
actually
yeah.
see him. That's brutal. And one of the things that you definitely have to carry is as a founder and somebody who brings people into your business. When you speak with other entrepreneurs who know you went and did this thing and built your own company and you're out here doing it, what is a question that you often get asked by other entrepreneurs? And then what's a question that they don't ask but they should be asking you?
Yeah, great question. So I talk to entrepreneurs every week. Mostly it's founders of B2C startups or
Mhm,
grown-up companies. They ask what channel I need to scale next often. What channel?
mhm,
Meta, TikTok, product, I don't know, any other channels. What do you think where I can get money from? And I try to push them back a little bit and ask the question, what assumptions you need to test next,
mm,
assumptions of your business. What assumptions you want to test with that channel? Whether you understand the assumptions of your product and whether there is a market response to that. So that's um, if you know what assumptions you want to test, there will always will be tons of instruments and tools to test that assumption. But don't treat like scale as an instrument. Treat scale as a why. What I want to do with that, and then how I want to
mm.
do that.
Imagine that you woke up at the start of your career. You somehow have retained all the knowledge and experience that you've gained over your career, but you can kind of start back there at the beginning. How do you spend that first week of that fresh start?
I love to reflect on everything that I do. Stop of the person I am. So I would just sit down and reflect the whole week on everything I know, because I have that
Hmm.
knowledge, right? And I would probably ask myself, what would be the end point of what I want to start
Hmm.
in a week? What I want was that end point to achieve, what influence, whom I want to influence, and then that would basically help me to reverse engineer what type of business I want to start, either B2C or B2B, what type of vertical, whether it's a business overall. Maybe I need to go into not profit. I don't know. Reflect as much as possible and then reverse engineer from the end point to the first point before starting.
I love that. The answer to that question is almost always some specific action. And you're saying, before I take action, let me like reflect on what I know and make sure that that first action is the right one. And that's a
Yeah.
really thoughtful response. That's that philosophy coming out in you for sure. What's one tool, quote, or book that you found indispensable to you, either personally or professionally, in your journey?
So it's going to be even more philosophical than previous one. As a Christian, especially surrounded by many existential questions here in Ukraine with war and everything. I'm not even asking myself whether I can wake up as an entrepreneur, but whether I can wake up next day at all. I know this phrase, which I put in my Notion wiki. It says, "I'm immortal until the God has work for me to do," meaning I'm fearless, I'm curious, I'm ambitious until my days account, and basically that builds the trust and the values that I build things on. So that helps me to reflect on challenges, daily challenges, entrepreneurship challenges, and many other things.
That's really awesome, Artem. What a unique, I mean, I think everybody outside of Ukraine looks at Ukraine right now and has in the last few years and been like, what? How are they running a business? Like, how are they actually doing that in the midst of so much turmoil and unrest? And I mean, you said it. That's a really stark reminder of like, I'm not necessarily sometimes not asking the question of like, how do I wake up tomorrow to run my business, but how do I wake up tomorrow? And like, what does that look like for my life? And what's my life going to look like day to day to day right now? And business is so about, especially as founders and operators of companies, future vision, like casting vision, executing on that vision long term. And that's got to be incredibly hard for you to do right now. And your faith seems like a real anchor for you to get that done. And that's awesome.
Yeah, I can
Cool.
I can agree with that.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This was great. There were a ton. I mean, I took so many notes here. There are a ton of nuggets. You have a very interesting story, and one that I think a lot of people can relate to. And I'm really excited to get my listeners get this insight to them and have them hear it, because it's just chock full of value. So thank you for your time today, for sharing.
Thanks for inviting me, Brendan. I was happy to share it. Hope it's going to be helpful.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, you take care. Thanks again. If you guys enjoyed the show, leaving a review is the best way to help others find it, second only to sharing it directly with your friends and family. Thanks so much for helping get the word out. Hit me up at brandon@readysetstartuppod.com if you have additional questions about a topic I covered, have suggestions about another area you'd like to see me dig into, or just want to say hi. Please reach out. I'd love to get in touch. Keep imagining, keep creating, keep inspiring your spheres of influence with what you're passionate about. The world may just need that dream that's in your head. See you next time.
Resonate.